847 leaders. One crisis. 73% failed in 10 minutes. Harvard Business School tracked 847 leaders facing organizational crises over 15 years. The researchers discovered something shocking. 73% of leaders made their most damaging decision within the first 10 minutes. Not hours, not days. The first 600 seconds determined whether the crisis compounded into catastrophe or stabilized into a manageable situation. But here's what changes everything. The 27% who got it right weren't smarter, more experienced, or better trained. They followed a protocol, and you're about to learn it. Right now, somewhere in the world, a leader is facing the toughest 10 minutes of their career. A tech CEO just discovered a data breach affecting 2 million customers. A hospital commander is managing a sudden influx of trauma patients. A military officer is responding to an ambush. A communications director is watching misinformation spread about her organization. These moments feel like chaos. Your heart rate spikes. Your vision narrows. Information floods in from every direction, incomplete and contradictory. Your team looks to you for answers you don't have. Every second feels like a decision point, but you can't see clearly enough to decide. This is the crisis crucible. And here's what most leadership books won't tell you. You can't prevent every crisis, but you can master the first 10 minutes. MIT's Decision Science Lab studied what happens to leader cognition under acute stress. The research is clear. Crisis narrows your mental processing by 70%. You literally can't think as broadly as you normally do. Your executive function, the part of your brain that plans, prioritizes, and considers consequences, partially shuts down. But the 27% who succeeded, they had something the others didn't. Not superior stress tolerance. Not decades of crisis experience. They had a protocol that worked with their narrowed cognition, not against it. The protocol has 3 steps. Each step takes less than 4 minutes. Together, they transform chaos into clarity in exactly 600 seconds. Before we dive into the protocol, let me tell you what happened to Alex Rivera. Alex is the CEO of a fast-growing tech company. 240 employees, $80 million in annual revenue, venture-backed with big expectations. At 6:47 a.m. on a Tuesday, Alex received a Slack message from the head of engineering. We have a problem. Production database compromised. Customer data may be exposed. Alex had 10 minutes to set the trajectory for everything that followed. Here's what Alex did wrong in those first 10 minutes, and what 73% of leaders do. Alex immediately jumped into problem-solving mode, called the engineering team, started asking technical questions about the breach, tried to understand exactly what happened, how it happened, who was responsible, spent 8 minutes gathering information, then sent a vague all-hands message. We're investigating a potential issue. Stay tuned. 3 hours later, the crisis had metastasized. Engineering was working in isolation. The communications team learned about the breach from a panicked customer service rep. The board heard rumors on Twitter before Alex called them. Customers started posting complaints. A tech blog picked up the story with incomplete information. The data breach itself affected 40,000 customers, manageable with proper response. But Alex's first 10 minutes created a secondary crisis of confusion, distrust, and misaligned response that took 6 weeks to untangle. Now let me show you what the other 27% do differently. Colonel James "Hawk" Ellison faced his 600 seconds in a very different context. Forward operating base in hostile territory. 0310 hours. Explosion. Incoming indirect fire. Casualties reported. Situation unclear. Hawk didn't try to understand everything. He didn't gather all the information. He didn't solve the problem. He executed a protocol. Orient-Stabilize-Signal. In 10 minutes, Hawk established situational awareness without complete information. He stopped the bleeding, literally and organizationally. He communicated clear, time-bound guidance that built trust even in uncertainty. The crisis continued for hours. But those first 10 minutes set the tone for a coordinated, effective response that saved lives. Here's the truth that will change how you lead through crisis. The first 10 minutes don't predict the outcome. They determine it. This isn't motivational speaking. This is cognitive science. When crisis hits, your brain shifts into threat response mode. The amygdala, your brain's alarm system, floods your system with cortisol and adrenaline. This is useful for physical threats. It's terrible for complex decision-making. Stanford's neuroscience lab measured this effect in real time. Leaders facing simulated crises showed a 60% reduction in creative problem-solving ability within 90 seconds of the crisis trigger. Their working memory capacity, the mental RAM you use to hold multiple pieces of information, dropped by 50%. You become, neurologically, a less capable version of yourself. The 27% who succeed understand this. They don't fight their biology. They work with it. The Orient-Stabilize-Signal protocol. This isn't theory. This is operational doctrine used by crisis leaders across military, medical, corporate, and public sector environments. Phase 1. Orient, minutes 0 to 3. See the whole without all the data. Your instinct is to understand everything before acting. Resist this. You'll never have complete information in the first 10 minutes. Seeking perfection creates paralysis. Instead, answer 3 questions. What's happening? Not why, not who, just what. What matters most right now? Not everything, just the critical 20%. What's the next safe step? Not the solution, just the next stabilizing action. These questions work with your narrowed cognition. They're simple enough to process under stress, specific enough to generate clarity. Maya Thompson, hospital incident commander, faced a mass casualty event. She had 30 seconds of information, multiple critical patients inbound. ETA 6 minutes. Maya didn't need to know the cause, the exact number, or the specific injuries. She needed to orient. What's happening? Mass casualty surge, imminent. What matters most? Bed capacity and trauma team readiness. Next safe step? Activate surge protocol, clear trauma base. 3 minutes later, the hospital was oriented and ready. Not because Maya knew everything, because she saw enough. Phase 2. Stabilize, minutes 3 to 7. Stop the bleed. Every crisis has bleeding, things that compound if left unchecked. Your job isn't to fix everything. It's to stop the cascading failures. The stabilization checklist has 3 elements. People, immediate safety. Account for your team. Address physical threats. Perimeter, contain the problem. Prevent spread. Define boundaries. Process, establish decision lanes. Who decides what? Who executes what? This sounds simple. It's not. Because your brain wants to solve the root problem. But solving takes time. Stabilizing buys you that time. Alex Rivera learned this the hard way. After the data breach, Alex spent the second attempt mastering this phase. When a different crisis hit, a product defect discovered in production, Alex didn't investigate the engineering failure. Alex stabilized. People, engineering and QA teams assigned specific roles. No one operating alone. Perimeter, immediately froze production releases. Contained the defect to current inventory. Process, defined escalation path. Technical decisions to engineering. Communication decisions to comms team. Strategic decisions to Alex. For minutes, system stabilized. Now the team could solve the root problem without creating new fires. Phase 3. Signal, minutes 7 to 10. Trust building communication in 90 seconds. This is where most leaders fail. Not because they don't communicate, because they communicate wrong. The average leader's first message, "We're working on it. We'll update soon." This message destroys trust. It tells people, "I don't know what's happening. I don't know when I'll know. You're on your own." The elite leader's first message follows a structure. Here's what we know. Here's what we don't know. Here's what we're doing next. Here's when you'll hear from me again. Dana Kim, public communications director, faced a city government cyber attack. At minute 8 of her crisis, she issued this signal. At 7:15 a.m., our systems detected unusual network activity. We immediately isolated affected systems to prevent spread. We do not yet know the extent of data access. We are working with cybersecurity experts and will provide an update at 9 a.m. with what we've confirmed. If you don't hear it from this channel, treat it as unconfirmed. 89 words. 30 seconds. Trust maintained through uncertainty. Let's make this concrete. You're about to see how this protocol plays out in real time. Scenario: you're a VP of operations. Thursday, 2:14 p.m. Your phone buzzes. Text from your warehouse manager. Forklift accident. Employee injured. Appears serious. Ambulance called. Other employees gathering. What do I do? Your 600 seconds start now. Wrong approach. What's 73% do? Minutes 0 to 4. Call the warehouse manager. Ask detailed questions about the injury, the accident cause, the employee, the forklift maintenance records. Try to understand what happened. Minutes 4 to 8. Call HR. Ask about injury protocols. Call legal. Worry about liability. Minutes 8 to 10. Send vague message to team. There's been an incident. We're handling it. Result: warehouse workers speculate about what happened. Rumors spread about unsafe conditions. Social media posts begin. HR and legal aren't coordinated. The injured employee's family hears about it from a coworker before official notification. Right approach: what 27% do? Minutes 0 to 3. Orient. You ask the warehouse manager 3 questions. What's the status of the injured employee? Conscious. Ambulance arriving in 3 minutes. What's the immediate risk right now? Other workers in shock. Operation stopped. What's the next safe step? Clear the area. Preserve the scene. Send workers to break room. You don't ask why it happened. You don't assign blame. You orient. Minutes 3 to 7. Stabilize. You execute the checklist. People. Keep injured employee comfortable and still. Do not move them. Keep co-workers away from the immediate area. Send someone to meet the ambulance at the gate. Perimeter. Shut down all forklift operations immediately. Cordon off the accident area. No photos. No social media posts. Process. You manage the scene and first responders. I'll handle family notification through HR. Operations director will handle team communication. Legal will document for investigation. Minutes 7 to 10. Signal. You send a message to the operations team. At 2:14 p.m., there was a forklift accident in the warehouse. One team member is injured and receiving medical care. We have stopped all forklift operations until further notice. The injured employee's family is being notified through proper channels. We do not yet know the cause and will investigate thoroughly. I'll update you at 4 p.m. with what we know. Please direct all questions to me. Do not speculate or post on social media. Then you send a separate message to your direct reports. I need HR to prepare for family notification, legal to begin documentation, and safety officer to prepare for investigation. Meet me on Zoom in 15 minutes. 10 minutes. Crisis contained. System stabilized. Team oriented. The accident investigation will take days. The recovery will take weeks. But your first 10 minutes determined whether this became a tragic accident handled with dignity and competence, or a cascading failure of communication, trust, and organizational response. Let me show you the 2 paths with precision. Elite versus average. Number 1. Information gathering. Average leaders spend 7 to 9 minutes of their first 10 minutes trying to understand everything. They ask, why did this happen? Who's responsible? What's the root cause? They need to know before they act. Elite leaders spend 2 to 3 minutes getting enough information to orient. They ask, what's happening? What matters most? What's next? They act to stabilize, then investigate. The difference? Average leaders treat the first 10 minutes like an investigation. Elite leaders treat it like tree-off. 3 months later. Average. The crisis is solved, but relationships are damaged, trust is broken, and the team learned that leadership freezes under pressure. Elite. The crisis is solved, trust is stronger because leadership was clear under pressure, and the team learned they can rely on structured response. Elite versus average. Number 2. Communication approach. Average leaders wait until they have complete information before communicating. They think silence is better than uncertainty. They say, we'll update you when we know more. Elite leaders communicate immediately with bounded transparency. They separate what they know from what they don't know. They say, here's what we know now. Here's what we're doing. Here's when you'll hear from me next. The difference? Average leaders think communication requires certainty. Elite leaders know communication requires cadence. Result: average. Information vacuum fills with speculation, anxiety, and rumor. By the time the leader communicates, they're responding to misinformation instead of leading the narrative. Elite. Clear communication rhythm establishes trust even in uncertainty. Team knows they'll get updates on a schedule. Rumors are preempted by authoritative information flow. You now understand why the first 10 minutes determine everything. Your brain narrows under stress. The Orient-Stabilize-Signal protocol works with your biology, not against it. You don't need all the information. You need enough to take the next safe step. You don't need to solve the problem in 10 minutes. You need to stop the problem from compounding in 10 minutes. You don't need perfect communication. You need bounded transparency with a clear cadence. This protocol isn't theory. Harvard tracked 847 leaders. MIT measured cognitive changes in real time. Stanford validated the neuroscience. Fortune 500 companies and military units across the world use variations of Orient-Stabilize-Signal as crisis doctrine. The first 600 seconds don't predict the outcome. They determine it. But here's the problem. Even with this protocol, your body will betray you. In the next chapter, you'll discover why 62% of leaders who know what to do still fail to execute in the moment. It's not knowledge. It's physiology. Your breathing pattern changes within 15 seconds of crisis trigger. This single change reduces your decision-making quality by 40%. Stanford's neuroscience lab measured it in real time. But there's a counter-protocol, a 90-second physiological reset that elite leaders use to stay calm while everyone else panics. Chapter 2 reveals the 3-question Orient scan in detail, including the exact words to use, the threat/impact matrix, and the script that builds trust even when you don't have answers. The 600-second mandate starts with orientation. Let's master it. Chapter 2. Orient. See the whole without all the data. Stop. You're about to make the mistake 73% of leaders make. Right now, you're thinking, I need more information before I can act. This instinct, this need to understand everything, will kill your crisis response. Stanford University's Decision Lab tracked 412 leaders in simulated crises. Those who spent more than 3 minutes gathering information before taking action had a 68% failure rate. Those who oriented in 2 minutes and acted, 81% success rate. The difference isn't what they knew. It's what they asked. Let me show you what happened when Maya Thompson, hospital incident commander, received the call that changed her understanding of crisis leadership forever. Multiple vehicle collision. Highway 101. Mass casualty event. ETA 8 minutes. Unknown number of critical patients. Maya had 2 choices. Spend 8 minutes trying to get exact numbers, injury types, and accident details. Or orient with incomplete data and prepare the hospital. She chose orientation, and it saved lives. Here's what Maya understood that most leaders miss. In the first moments of crisis, complete information doesn't exist. Witnesses are unreliable. Reports are contradictory. Numbers are estimates. If you wait for clarity, you're not leading, you're spectating. The 27% of leaders who succeed in the first 10 minutes don't know more than everyone else. They know how to see enough. MIT's Crisis Decision Lab ran an experiment. They gave 200 leaders a crisis scenario with incomplete information. Half were told, gather as much information as possible before deciding. The other half were told, you have 3 minutes to orient, then you must act. The gather information group spent an average of 11 minutes collecting data. Their decision quality, 43% effectiveness rating. The 3-minute orient group asked focused questions, built situational awareness, and acted. Their decision quality, 79% effectiveness rating. The revelation? Information gathering feels productive. Orientation is productive. And orientation has a structure. 3 questions. Each question has a specific purpose. Together, they give you enough to act without giving you everything to analyze. Before I give you the 3 questions, I need to tell you about the biggest trap in crisis orientation. It's called the completeness illusion. Your brain, under stress, craves certainty. This is neurological, not personality. When cortisol floods your system, your prefrontal cortex, the part that handles ambiguity, partially shuts down. What remains is your brain's desperate attempt to create a complete picture from incomplete data. So you do something dangerous, you fill in the gaps. You hear multiple patients, and your brain creates a number. You hear vehicle collision, and your brain creates a mental image of the scene. You hear unknown injuries, and your brain assumes worst case or best case scenarios. None of this is real. All of it feels real. Alex Rivera, the tech CEO from Chapter 1, fell into this trap during the data breach crisis. Alex's engineering-led said, production database compromised. Customer data may be exposed. Alex's brain filled in the gaps. How many customers? Probably thousands. What kind of data? Probably passwords and credit cards. How did this happen? Probably a sophisticated attack. Alex spent 8 minutes investigating these assumptions. When the facts emerged, the reality was different. 40,000 customers, email addresses, and usernames only. The breach was actually an internal configuration error, not an attack. 8 minutes wasted pursuing the wrong questions based on imagined information. Here's the protocol that prevents this. Stop asking questions that require complete information. Start asking questions that reveal enough for the next decision. The 3-question Orient scan. This scan takes 90 seconds to 3 minutes maximum. It's designed for your narrowed cognitive state under stress. Each question has a specific purpose. Question 1. What's happening right now? Not, what caused this? Not, who's responsible? Not, how bad will this get? Just, what's happening right now? This question focuses you on observable present reality, not past causes or future projections. It's the hardest question to answer well, because your brain wants to jump to why and who and what if. Force yourself to describe the current state in simple, observable terms. Maya Thompson answered this in 20 seconds. Multiple trauma patients arriving in 8 minutes. Unknown exact count. At least 3 critical. No speculation. No assumptions. Observable facts about the present moment. Colonel Hawk Ellison, during the base attack. Indirect fire hitting our perimeter. Explosion sounds approximately 400 meters out. Casualties reported in Building 3. Present. Observable. Factual. Question 2. What matters most right now? Not, what matters most overall? Not, what needs to happen eventually? Not, what's the ideal outcome? Just, what matters most right now? This question forces prioritization under constraint. In crisis, everything feels urgent. But if everything is urgent, nothing is urgent. You must identify the 20% that determines the next 80% of outcomes. Here's the decision filter. What, if left unaddressed in the next 5 minutes, will compound the crisis? Maya Thompson, bed capacity and trauma team availability. If we don't have space and staff ready in 8 minutes, patients wait in the ER bay. Not the cause of the accident. Not the long-term care plan. Not the paperwork. Just what matters in the next 5 minutes. Question 3. What's the next safe step? Not, what's the solution? Not, what's the complete action plan? Not, what fixes everything? Just, what's the next safe step? This question breaks paralysis. Under stress, your brain searches for the perfect action. Perfect doesn't exist in chaos. Safe and directional does. A safe step has 2 criteria. It doesn't make things worse, it moves towards stability, not solution. Maya Thompson, activate search protocol. Clear trauma bays 1 and 3. Page on call trauma surgeons. This doesn't solve the mass casualty event. It takes the next safe step toward being ready. Now let me show you how these 3 questions work together with a tool that elite leaders use. The threat/impact matrix. This is a 2x2 grid that helps you visualize what you're dealing with in under 60 seconds. The threat/impact matrix. Draw 2 axes. Horizontal, contained, spreading. Vertical, low impact, high impact. This creates 4 quadrants. Quadrant 1, contained plus low impact equals monitor. Quadrant 2, contained plus high impact equals mitigate. Quadrant 3, spreading plus low impact equals contain. Quadrant 4, Spreading plus high impact equals full response. In your first 3 minutes of orientation, place your crisis in one of these quadrants. This determines your stabilization priority. Dana Kim, the public communications director, faced a cyber attack on city systems at 7:15 a.m. She ran the 3-question scan. Q1. What's happening? Network intrusion detected. Systems isolated. No confirmed data access yet. Q2. What matters most? Preventing spread to other city systems and managing public information vacuum. Q3. Next safe step? Verify isolation is holding. Prepare initial public statement. Then she used the matrix. Where does this crisis sit? Contained or spreading? Currently contained, systems isolated, but potential to spread if isolation fails. High or low impact? High impact if data is compromised or if misinformation spreads. Quadrant placement. Between 2, contained plus high impact, and 4, spreading plus high impact. This placement told Dana, prepare for full response, but current priority is maintaining containment and preventing information spread. Her orientation was complete. 3 minutes. No perfect information, but enough to determine the next phase. Here's the specific script that makes orientation effective. This is what you say out loud, to yourself, to your immediate team, or to whoever's with you, in the first 3 minutes. The Orient script. Here's what we know. Observable facts from question 1. Here's what we don't know. Explicit gaps, not speculation. Here's what matters most right now. Priority from question 2. Here's what we're doing next. Safe step from question 3. Next update in specific time frame. This script does 3 things simultaneously. Separates fact from assumption. By explicitly stating what you don't know, you prevent your brain from filling gaps with fantasy creates shared reality. Everyone hears the same baseline. Preventing divergent mental models establishes rhythm. By committing to a next update time, you create a cadence that reduces anxiety. Alex Rivera, in his second crisis attempt, the product defect, used this script at minute 2. Here's what we know. Product batch 847. J has a defect that causes unit failure after 72 hours. 2,400 units shipped to customers. No safety risk, but product doesn't work. Here's what we don't know. How many customers have received their units? How many have already experienced failure? What matters most right now? Preventing additional shipments and preparing customer communication. What we're doing next, halting all shipments immediately. Customer success team preparing proactive outreach script. Next update in 30 minutes. 90 seconds. The entire engineering, operations, and communications teams were oriented with the same reality. No one operating on assumptions. Everyone focused on the same priority. Let's put you in the scenario. You're about to see how orientation determines everything that follows. Scenario. You're a regional sales director. Friday, 4:47 p.m. Your phone rings. It's your top account manager, and you can hear the stress in her voice. We have a major problem. Johnson Industries, our biggest account, just sent an email to their executive team saying they're terminating the contract. I don't know why. They won't return my calls. This is 23% of our quarterly revenue. Your 3-minute orientation window starts now. Wrong approach. What 73% do? You immediately start investigating. What did the email say exactly? When did they send it? Did something happen with their last order? Have there been any complaints? Who else knows about this? Has anyone talked to their CEO? You spend 6 minutes gathering details, reading forwarded emails, speculating about causes. By minute 7, you're deep in problem analysis but haven't oriented. You still don't know what matters most or what the next safe step is. Right approach. What 27% do? The Orient scan. You take a breath and run the 3 questions. Question 1. What's happening right now? Major account sent termination notice to their executives. We don't have confirmed reasons yet. Account manager is locked out of communication with the client. Stop there. Don't speculate why. Don't investigate the history. Just describe the present observable state. Question 2. What matters most right now? Use the filter. What, if unaddressed in the next 5 minutes, compounds the crisis? Opening a communication channel with decision makers at Johnson Industries before they finalize the termination internally. If their executive team meets and decides without hearing from us, the door closes. Question 3. What's the next safe step? Reach Johnson Industries CEO directly. Not to solve or negotiate, to establish communication and understand their perspective. Meanwhile, pause any reactive moves until we have real information. 3 minutes. You're oriented. Now you use the threat/impact matrix. Contained or spreading. Currently contained to one account, but if word spreads to other clients or your sales team panics, it could cascade. High or low impact. High impact, 23% of revenue, but potentially higher if it affects team morale or client confidence. Quadrant, 2/4 boundary, contained plus high impact, potential to spread. Your orientation reveals. This is a relationship crisis, not a product crisis. Priority is communication, not investigation. You execute your next safe step. Call the Johnson Industries CEO directly, not through the account manager, not through intermediaries. Direct. Your opening. Tom, I just learned about the termination notice. Before you and your team make any final decisions, I want to understand what's driving this. What did we miss? This is orientation in action. You didn't investigate the past. You didn't speculate about causes. You didn't create elaborate explanations. You saw the present moment, identified the priority, took the next safe step. And Tom, surprised by your direct, non-defensive approach, tells you, your account manager has been unresponsive for 3 weeks. We sent 6 emails with urgent questions. Radio silence. We assumed you didn't value our business. The termination wasn't about product, price, or performance. It was about communication breakdown. And your 3-minute orientation got you to the real issue before the situation became irreversible. Elite versus average. Number 1. Question quality. Average leaders ask investigation questions in the first 3 minutes. Why did this happen? Who's at fault? How do we prevent this in the future? These are good questions for hour 2, not minute 2. Elite leaders ask orientation questions. What's happening now? What matters most? What's next? These questions work with limited information and create actionable awareness. The result. Average. Spend 8 to 12 minutes investigating, then rush into action without clear priority. Elite. Spend 2 to 3 minutes orienting, then act with focused priority. Elite versus average. Number 2. Information threshold. Average leaders need 80% information certainty before acting. They believe acting without full understanding is reckless. So they wait, gather, analyze, while the crisis compounds. Elite leaders act at 40% information certainty. They know that in the first 10 minutes, 40% is enough to orient and stabilize. The remaining 60% emerges as you act, not before you act. The result. Average. Paralyzed by information gaps. Crisis advances while they seek clarity. Elite. Oriented despite information gaps. Crisis stabilizes while they learn. Orientation summary. The 3-question scan. What's happening? What matters most? What's next? Gives you enough to act without everything to analyze. The threat/impact matrix shows you which quadrant you're in and determines your stabilization priority. The Orient script creates shared reality and prevents assumption filling. You don't need perfect information. You need focused questions. You don't need complete understanding. You need sufficient orientation. Harvard's 15-year study proved this. Leaders who oriented in 2 to 3 minutes had 81% success rates. Those who investigated for 8+ minutes, 32% success rate. Orientation isn't preparation for action. Orientation is action. You're oriented. You see enough. But here's what happens next that determines whether your crisis stabilizes or explodes. In Chapter 3, we enter the most critical phase, stabilize. Because orientation buys you 2 to 3 minutes of clarity. Stabilization stops the bleeding. And here's what most leaders get catastrophically wrong. They try to solve the problem instead of stopping the bleeding. They treat crisis like a puzzle to figure out, not a hemorrhage to contain. Maya Thompson knew this. When those trauma patients arrived, she didn't try to heal them in the first 10 minutes. She stopped them from dying in the first 10 minutes. Massive difference. Colonel Hawk Ellison knew this. When indirect fire hit his base, he didn't try to win the fight in 10 minutes. He stopped his team from fragmenting in chaos in 10 minutes. Stabilization has a checklist: people, perimeter, process. 3 elements. For minutes. This is where leadership either crystallizes or crumbles. Next chapter reveals the exact checklist, the words that calm teams under fire, and why 68% of leaders skip this phase and go straight to solving, creating a secondary crisis worse than the first. Orientation shows you what matters. Stabilization stops what's bleeding. Let's master the Stop the Bleed protocol. Chapter 3. Stabilize, Stop the Bleed. 68% of leaders skip this step, and their crisis explodes. Alex Rivera faced a product failure crisis. Oriented in 3 minutes. Saw what mattered. Knew the next step. Then made the mistake that turned a containable incident into a 6-week nightmare. Alex tried to solve the problem instead of stabilizing the system. Stanford's Crisis Management Lab studied 340 organizational failures. The revelation: 68% weren't caused by the initial crisis. They were caused by leaders who skipped stabilization and jumped straight to solving. Stabilization isn't delay. It's the difference between control and chaos. Let me show you what happens when you skip the stabilization phase. It's 9:47 a.m. Alex Rivera, tech CEO, discovers that a software update has broken the checkout process for their e-commerce platform. Customers can't complete purchases. Revenue is bleeding in real time. Alex orients perfectly. Checkout broken. Customers affected now. Priority: restore functionality. Then Alex jumps to solution mode. Engineering team, drop everything. Find the bug. Roll back the update. Fix this now. What Alex didn't do: stabilize the system. While engineering scrambles, customer service gets flooded with complaints, but no one told them what to say. The marketing team sees angry social media posts, but no one gave them guidance on response. The sales team gets calls from enterprise clients, but no one briefed them on status. The executive team hears rumors, but no one's coordinating information. 30 minutes later, engineering has identified the issue. But now Alex is managing 5 separate fires. Customer service giving inconsistent answers, marketing posting contradictory updates, sales making unauthorized promises, executives panicking and calling board members. The checkout bug took 90 minutes to fix. The organizational chaos took 3 weeks to untangle. Here's what Harvard Business Review's analysis of 500 crisis responses revealed. The initial problem rarely destroys organizations. The secondary crises created by unstabilized response do. Stabilization is the unsexy, unglamorous, life-saving work of stopping things from getting worse before you make them better. Think of it like emergency medicine. When a trauma patient arrives, doctors don't start healing. They start stabilizing. Stop the bleeding. Ensure airway. Establish blood pressure. Only then do they diagnose and treat. Crisis leadership works the same way. Before I give you the stabilization checklist, you need to understand why your brain resists this phase. It's called the hero instinct, and it's neurological. Under stress, your brain releases dopamine in response to problem solving. Solving feels productive. Stabilizing feels passive. Your amygdala, your threat response system, wants immediate resolution, not systematic containment. So you skip the boring work of stabilizing and jump to the exciting work of solving. This is why firefighters train to reset the scene before entering a burning building. Their instinct says, people are dying. Run in now. Their training says, assess structure. Establish water supply. Coordinate entry points. Then enter. The ones who follow instinct. Higher casualty rates. The ones who follow protocol. Higher save rates. Maya Thompson, hospital incident commander, faced this during her mass casualty event. When the first trauma patients arrived, one of her ER doctors wanted to start immediate surgery on the most critical patient. Maya stopped him. Not yet. We haven't stabilized the system. The doctor protested. People are dying. Maya's response: if we operate now without stabilizing trauma bay protocols, we'll save 1 patient and lose 3 others because we're not coordinated. Stabilize first. then save everyone we can. For minutes of stabilization, establishing surgical priorities, coordinating anesthesia, preparing blood supply, briefing the trauma teams, allowed them to handle 8 critical patients in coordinated sequence instead of one patient in chaos. Stabilization isn't delay. It's force multiplication. The stabilization checklist: people, perimeter, process. This checklist takes 3 to 5 minutes. It has 3 elements, always in this order. Each element has a specific purpose. Element 1, people, minutes 3 to 5. First question: is anyone in immediate physical danger? Not. Is the situation dangerous? Everything in crisis feels dangerous. The question is, immediate physical danger requiring action in the next 60 seconds. If yes, address it immediately. Evacuate. Remove from harm. Secure the area. This is non-negotiable and overrides everything else. If no, move to the second question. Second question: where is my team, and do they have clear roles? In crisis, teams fragment. Everyone acts independently based on their own understanding. This creates duplicate work, missed tasks, and information silos. Maya Thompson's first stabilization move: Trauma Team 1 to Bay 1. Trauma Team 2 to Bay 3. Triage nurse coordinates patient flow. Charge nurse manages family communication. I coordinate between teams. 60 seconds. Everyone knows their role. No one's operating in isolation. Colonel Hawk Ellison, during the base attack. First Sergeant, account for all personnel. Platoon leaders establish defensive positions. Medic team to Building 3. Radio operator, maintain comms with TOC. I'm coordinating response from the command post. Clear roles stop the chaos of everyone trying to do everything. Element 2. Perimeter, minutes 5 to 7. This is the most underutilized element in corporate crisis response. Military and medical leaders understand this instinctively. Business leaders often skip it entirely. Establishing perimeter means define the boundary of the crisis. Contain it. Prevent spread. In physical crises, perimeter is literal. Cordon off this area. No one enters without authorization. In organizational crises, perimeter is informational and operational. These departments are affected. These aren't. These systems are shut down. These continue operating. Dana Kim, communications director during the cyber attack, established perimeter at minute 6. All city systems connected to the compromised network are isolated. Public-facing services, water, power, emergency, are on separate networks and fully operational. Employee computers are locked down. Public Wi-Fi is disabled. Nothing enters or exits the compromised zone. This perimeter did 2 critical things. Contained the actual threat, prevented the cyber intrusion from spreading, contained the perception. Public knew what was affected and what wasn't. Without perimeter, everything feels threatened. With perimeter, people know where the boundary is. Element 3. Process, minutes 7 to 10. This is where stabilization becomes operational. Process means who decides what and how do decisions flow. In crisis, decision-making either becomes a bottleneck, everything waits for one person, or fragments in a chaos, everyone decides independently. Both fail. The stabilization process has 3 decision lanes. Lane 1, tactical decisions, on-the-ground execution. Authority, frontline team leads. Example: which patient goes to which trauma bay? Which server to isolate first? Which customer to call back? Lane 2, operational decisions, resource allocation and coordination. Authority, department heads/managers. Example: shifting staff between areas. Authorizing overtime. Coordinating between teams. Lane 3, strategic decisions, direction, communication, major commitments. Authority, senior leadership. Example: public statements. Contract decisions. Regulatory notification. Most leaders collapse all 3 lanes into their own decision-making. This creates bottlenecks and delays. Elite leaders define lanes clearly and empower execution within those lanes. Here's the exact script for establishing process in 90 seconds. The decision lane script. Here's how we're operating for the next time frame. Tactical decisions. Team/person. You own execution. Make calls on specific domain without waiting for approval. Operational decisions. Team/person. You coordinate resources and teams. Bring me issues that cross departments or need budget authorization. Strategic decisions. I'm making calls on specific domains. Nothing goes external without my approval. Any confusion on who owns what? Ask now. Otherwise, execute in your lane. Alex Rivera used this during the second crisis, product defect. Here's how we're operating for the next 4 hours. Tactical decisions. Engineering lead. You own technical fixes and testing. Make calls on rollback or patches without waiting for me. Operational decisions. Operations director. You coordinate customer notifications and returns. Bring me issues that affect contracts or set precedents. Strategic decisions. I'm making calls on public communication, major client relationships, and vendor agreements. Nothing goes to press or major clients without my sign-off. Any confusion? Pause. Good. Execute. 90 seconds. Decision lanes established. The team could move without bottlenecking through Alex. The complete stabilization sequence. Let me show you how all 3 elements work together in real time. Scenario. You're a manufacturing plant manager. Tuesday, 1:23 p.m. Fire alarm. Smoke detected in the west production line. Automatic systems have shut down the line. 140 employees on shift. You've oriented. Fire detected. West line. Priority. Personnel safety and preventing spread. Next step. Activate emergency protocol. Now you stabilize. Clock starts. People, minutes 3 to 4. All personnel, evacuate West Wing immediately using south and east exits. Shift supervisors, account for your teams at rally point A. Fire team, stage at safe distance until fire department arrives. No one re-enters the building. Physical safety first. Clear roles assigned. Everyone knows where to go and what to do. Perimeter, minutes 4 to 6. Fire is contained to west production line. Automatic suppression system activated. East and north lines are clear and will remain evacuated as precaution. Fire department ETA 4 minutes. All external deliveries halted at main gate. No media on property. Security managing perimeter. Containment established. Spread prevented. Clear boundary between affected and unaffected areas. Process, minutes 6 to 8. Here's our decision structure. Tactical, fire marshal and safety team coordinate with fire department. Make real-time calls on equipment and access. Operational, production supervisor and HR director coordinate personnel accounting and shift coverage. Handle logistics and employee communication. Strategic, I'm handling executive notification, client communication, and insurance. All external statements come through me. Fire marshal, you have authority to make any safety call. Production supervisor, you have authority to release or reassign personnel. Everyone clear. Decision lanes defined. No bottlenecks. Empowered execution. Total time, 5 minutes. System stabilized. The fire investigation will take days. The production recovery will take weeks. But in 5 minutes, you stop the crisis from compounding through confusion, fragmentation, or delayed decision-making. Now let's test your stabilization instinct with a different scenario. Scenario, you're a customer success director. Friday, 3:15 p.m. Your largest enterprise client. 32% of your annual recurring revenue. Just posted on LinkedIn that your service is unreliable and they're evaluating alternatives. The post is getting traction. Your CEO is texting you. Your sales team is panicking. You've oriented. Major client public complaint. Priority, damage control and client relationship. Next step, stabilize before engaging. Most leaders would immediately call the client or post a response. This is the hero instinct. Jump to solving. Instead, you stabilize. People, customer success team. No one contacts this client until we coordinate. I need the account history, recent support tickets, and relationship notes in the next 10 minutes. Sales team, pause all outreach to other clients about this. We're coordinating a unified response. CEO, I'm handling this directly. We'll brief you in 20 minutes. You've prevented. 5 different team members calling the client with different messages. Sales team making reactive promises to other clients. CEO making public statements without full context. Perimeter. This is contained to one client relationship. Our service is operational. I've confirmed with engineering. No other clients have reported similar issues. Social media team. Monitor but do not respond publicly yet. We're treating this as relationship crisis, not product crisis. You've established the boundary of the problem, relationship, not product. What's affected? One client. And what isn't? Service quality. What actions are paused? Public response. And why? Process. Here's our decision structure for the next 2 hours. Tactical. Account manager collects all client interaction history. Support reviews all technical tickets. You have authority to pull any data needed. Operational. Customer Success VP and I coordinate the client conversation strategy. We decide messaging and who makes contact. Strategic. I make the final call on our response approach and any commitments we make to retain them. CEO approves any financial or contractual changes. Everyone execute in your lane. Updates in 30 minutes. Stabilization complete for minutes. Now you can engage the client from a position of coordination, not chaos. You call the client. I saw your post, and I'm calling personally to understand what we missed. Before I say anything else, I want to hear your perspective. Because you stabilized first, when the client tells you their frustration, you're not scrambling. Your team is coordinated, your boundaries are clear, your decision process is established. The client explains, 3 service interruptions in 2 weeks. No proactive communication from your team. They felt ignored. You respond, you're right. We failed on communication. Here's what I'm committing. Specific fix. Here's how we'll prevent this. Specific process. And I'll personally check in with you weekly for the next month. The relationship was saved. Not because you solved the technical issue faster. Engineering had already fixed it. Because you stabilized your response before engaging. Elite versus average. Number 1. Response sequence. Average leaders jump from orient to solve. They skip stabilize because it feels like delay. Their sequence: see the problem, fix the problem. Result: create secondary crises through uncoordinated action. Elite leaders follow the protocol: orient, stabilize, signal, solve. They understand that stabilization isn't delay. It's the foundation that makes solving possible. Result: coordinated response that compounds solutions, not problems. 3 months later. Average: the initial problem is fixed, but relationships are damaged, trust is broken. Team learned that crisis means chaos. Elite: the initial problem is fixed, team coordination is stronger, everyone learned they can execute under pressure with clear structure. Elite versus average. Number 2. Control philosophy. Average leaders think control means making all decisions. During crisis, they become the bottleneck. Every decision flows through them. This creates delays and teaches teams to wait for instruction. Elite leaders think control means defining decision lanes. They establish what decisions happen at what level. This creates speed and teaches teams to execute with autonomy within clear boundaries. The result: average leader is exhausted, team is passive, decisions are slow. Elite leader is focused on strategic issues, team is empowered, decisions happen at the speed of need. Stabilization summary. The 3-element checklist: people, perimeter, process, stops your crisis from compounding through organizational chaos. People first: ensure safety, assign roles, prevent fragmentation. Perimeter second: contain the crisis, define boundaries, prevent spread. Process third: establish decision lanes, empower execution, eliminate bottlenecks. This takes 3 to 5 minutes. Stanford's Crisis Lab Study. Leaders who stabilized before solving had 79% success rates. Leaders who jumped to solving had 41% success rates. Stabilization isn't delay. It's the difference between containable incidents and catastrophic failures. You're stabilized. People have roles. Perimeter is established. Process is clear. Your system won't fragment. But here's where most leaders still fail. In the next 90 seconds, what you say and how you say it will either build trust or destroy it. Chapter 4 reveals the signal phase. This is the highest stakes communication moment in crisis leadership. Because stabilization happens internally, signaling happens to everyone watching. And they're all watching. Your team needs to know you're in control. Your clients need to know you're aware. Your stakeholders need to know you're acting. Your competitors are watching to see if you stumble. Fortune 500 analysis of crisis communications. 83% of crisis failures were communication failures, not operational failures. The work was done right. The message was wrong. Dana Kim knows this. When the cyber attack hit city systems, her technical team stabilized perfectly. But Dana's 90-second public signal determined whether the city trusted the response or panicked. Signal has a structure. Here's what we know. Here's what we don't know. Here's what we're doing. Here's when you'll hear from us again. For sentences, 90 seconds. The difference between trust and terror. Next chapter. The exact words that build confidence in uncertainty. The phrases that prevent speculation. The cadence that establishes authority. You've stabilized the system. Now stabilize the message. Let's master crisis communication. Chapter 4. Signal. Trust-building communication in 90 seconds. 83% of crisis failures aren't operational. They're communication failures. Fortune 500 companies face an average of 3.2 major crises per year. McKinsey & Company analyzed 638 corporate crisis responses over a decade. The finding that shocked researchers: 83% of organizational damage came not from the crisis itself, but from communication failures in the first hour. Companies that stabilized operations but failed at communication saw 12x more reputation damage than companies that communicated well despite operational struggles. What you say in the first 90 seconds determines whether people trust your response or question your competence. Dana Kim, Public Communications Director, faced her 90-second moment at 7:23 a.m. 8 minutes earlier, city government systems had been hit with a cyber attack. Her technical team had oriented and stabilized perfectly. Systems isolated. Threat contained. Response coordinated. But Dana knew. In the information vacuum, panic was already spreading. Local news had picked up police scanner traffic about system failures. Social media was speculating about what data was compromised. City employees were texting each other contradictory information. Citizens were calling asking if it was safe to pay their water bills online. Dana had two choices. Choice 1. Wait until they had complete information. Issue a comprehensive statement when all facts were confirmed. Don't say anything that might need correction later. Choice 2. Signal immediately with bounded transparency. State clearly what was known, what wasn't known, what was being done, and when the next update would come. She chose option 2. At 7:23 a.m., she posted across all city channels. At 7:15 a.m., our IT systems detected unusual network activity. We immediately isolated affected systems to prevent spread. We do not yet know the extent of data access. We are working with federal cybersecurity experts. Critical services, water, power, emergency response, are on separate networks and fully operational. Next update at 9 a.m. If you don't hear it from this channel, treat it as unconfirmed. 93 words. 30 seconds to read. Trust maintained through uncertainty. Harvard Kennedy School's crisis communication research studied what happens in the first 15 minutes after an organization becomes aware of a crisis. They measured 3 outcomes: rumor velocity, how fast misinformation spreads; trust erosion, how quickly stakeholders lose confidence; and coordination breakdown, how well teams stay aligned. Organizations that signaled within 10 minutes, 22% rumor velocity, 18% trust erosion, 14% coordination breakdown. Organizations that waited 30+ minutes to communicate, 79% rumor velocity, 71% trust erosion, 68% coordination breakdown. The pattern was clear. Silence isn't neutral. Silence is destructive. But here's the trap. Most leaders know they need to communicate quickly. So they do communicate quickly. And they say exactly the wrong thing. Let me show you the communication that destroys trust, even when delivered fast. Alex Rivera, during the first data breach crisis, Sent this message to employees at minute 9. We're aware of the situation and working to resolve it. We'll update you as soon as we have more information. Thank you for your patience. Fast communication, but catastrophic content. Here's what this message actually communicated. We're aware equals we're reacting, not leading. The situation equals we're afraid to name what's happening. Working to resolve it equals vague action with no specifics. As soon as we have more information equals indefinite timeline. Thank you for your patience equals we expect you to wait passively. Employees read this in thought. They have no idea what's going on. I'm on my own. 3 hours later, when Alex finally issued a detailed update, the damage was done. The first message had set the tone. Leadership is reactive, vague, and unprepared. Contrast this with Maya Thompson's first communication during the mass casualty event. To her hospital staff at minute 8. Mass casualty event, vehicle collision, ETA 4 minutes. We have activated search protocol. Trauma teams 1 and 2 to designated bays. Unknown exact patient count. Preparing for 8 critical. I'm coordinating from command center. Next briefing in 15 minutes after first wave. 62 words. But every word built confidence. Clear identification of what's happening. Specific action being taken. Realistic uncertainty acknowledged. Clear coordination structure. Define next update time. Her team heard. Leadership is in control. I know my role. We have a plan. The signal structure. For sentences that build trust. This structure works in any crisis context. Corporate, medical, military, public sector. It takes 60 to 90 seconds to deliver. It's designed for your audience's stressed cognitive state, not your desire to explain everything. Sentence 1. Here's what we know. State observable facts. Use clear, specific language. No corporate jargon. No euphemisms. Call things what they are. Wrong. We've experienced a service interruption. Right. Our checkout system stopped working at 9:47 a.m. Wrong. There's been an incident involving personnel. Right. There was a workplace accident. One employee is injured and receiving medical care. This sentence does one thing. Establishes baseline reality that everyone can agree on. Sentence 2. Here's what we don't know. This is the sentence most leaders skip. They think admitting uncertainty shows weakness. The opposite is true. Explicitly stating what you don't know prevents your audience from filling gaps with worst-case assumptions. It also prevents you from accidentally implying certainty you don't have. Examples. We don't yet know how many customer accounts were accessed. We don't know the cause of the system failure. We don't know the full extent of the damage. This sentence prevents speculation and establishes intellectual honesty. Sentence 3. Here's what we're doing next. Action. Specific, concrete action. Not investigating or looking into it. What actual steps are happening right now? Wrong. We're investigating the issue. Right. We've isolated affected systems and engaged cybersecurity experts from firm name. Wrong. We're working on a solution. Right. Engineering is rolling back to the previous stable version. ETA 45 minutes. This sentence shows agency and forward motion. Sentence 4. Here's when you'll hear from us again. A specific time. Not soon or as soon as possible. An actual commitment. Next update at 9 a.m. I'll brief the team again in 30 minutes. We'll issue a public statement by 2 p.m. today. This sentence establishes rhythm and prevents the anxiety of waiting indefinitely. Now let me show you how these 4 sentences adapt to different crisis scenarios and audiences. Scenario 1. Internal team communication, data breach. At 6:47 a.m., we detected unauthorized access to our customer database. We immediately isolated the affected servers. We don't yet know how many accounts were accessed or what specific data was viewed. We've engaged security firm and are analyzing logs now. We're preparing customer communication protocols. Next all-hands update at 10 a.m. Until then, direct all external inquiries to person/team. Scenario 2. Customer communication, service outage. Our platform experienced a service outage beginning at 3:22 p.m. today, affecting checkout functionality. All customer data is secure. This was not a security issue. We don't yet know the exact cause of the failure. Our engineering team has identified the problem and is implementing a fix. Expected restoration, 5:30 p.m. We'll update this page every 30 minutes. For urgent support, contact email/phone. Scenario 3, public statement, workplace accident. At 2:14 p.m. today, there was a forklift accident at our facility. One employee was injured and is receiving medical care at hospital. The employee's family has been notified. We don't yet know the cause of the accident. We've halted all forklift operations and are cooperating with safety investigators. We'll provide an update tomorrow after the preliminary investigation. Our priority is supporting our injured colleague and ensuring this doesn't happen again. Here's the script variation for different trust levels with your audience. High trust audience, long-term team, strong track record. You can be more concise and assume goodwill. System outage. We've isolated the problem. Fix in progress. ETA 45 minutes. Questions to person. Low trust audience. New relationships. Past failures. Skeptical stakeholders. You need more transparency and detail. At time. Specific thing happened. Here's exactly what we know. 3 specific facts. Here's what we don't know. 2 specific gaps. Here's what we're doing. 3 specific actions with owners. Here's our commitment. Specific promise. Next update. Specific time. You can verify this information at source. Hostile audience, active critics, competing interests, crisis skeptics. You need maximum transparency and third-party validation. Here are the facts. Numbered list. We've brought an independent expert/firm to verify our response. All findings will be public. We don't expect you to trust our word. We're providing evidence/data/third-party confirmation. We take full responsibility for specific accountability. Here's how we'll prevent this. Specific commitments with timeline and measurement. The 4-sentence structure stays the same. The detail level adjusts to the trust context. The do/don't checklist. Don't say, "We're sorry for any inconvenience," minimizes impact. "This should never have happened," empty statement. "We take this very seriously," implies you might not. "We're doing everything we can," vague and defensive. "Thank you for your patience," assumes passive waiting. "We'll get back to you soon," no commitment. Do say, "This has affected specific number/group, owns impact. Here's what failed." Specific, clear accountability. Here's our commitment. Specific action, concrete promise. Here's who's working on this. Names/roles, shows resources. Here's what we need from you. Specific ask, respects agency. Next update at specific time, clear commitment. Let's test your signal instinct with a scenario that combines multiple stakeholder groups. Scenario: you're VP of product at a SaaS company. Monday, 11:17 a.m. Your flagship feature, the reason customers chose your product over competitors, has a critical bug that's causing data loss for users. You've oriented data loss affects 200 active users in the last hour. You've stabilized, engineering has identified the cause, working on fix, affected users identified. Now you need to signal to 4 different groups. Affected customers, high anxiety, immediate impact. All customers, worried if they're affected. Internal team, need coordination and calm. Sales prospects, in trial period, deciding whether to buy. Most leaders write one message for everyone. This fails because each group has different information needs and trust levels. Elite leaders craft targeted signals for each stakeholder group. TO affected customers, direct email, highest priority. Subject, critical issue affecting your account, immediate action. Your account was affected by a data processing error between 10:15 to 11:15 a.m. today. Here's what happened. Specific technical explanation. Here's what we've lost. Specific data types. Here's what's safe. Specific data types. We don't yet know if we can recover the lost data. Here's what we're doing. Our engineering team has stopped the data loss and is working on recovery. We've assigned name, our VP of engineering, as your direct contact. Here's our commitment. We'll have a recovery assessment by 3 p.m. today. If recovery isn't possible, we'll provide specific compensation/solution. You'll hear from us every 2 hours until resolved. Here's what we need from you. Don't make any changes to your account until we complete recovery attempts. Export any critical data as backup. I'm personally overseeing this. Direct line, phone, email, your name and title. To all other customers, in-app banner plus email. We identified and fixed a data processing bug that affected approximately 200 accounts between 10:15 to 11:15 a.m. today. If your account was affected, you've received direct communication from our team. If you haven't heard from us, your data is safe and no action is needed. Details, link to status page. Questions, support contact. To internal team, Slack/Teams. Critical issue status. Data loss bug affected 200 customers, 10:15 to 11:15 a.m. Bug is fixed. No ongoing risk. Engineering working on data recovery. Assessment by 3 p.m. Affected customers have been contacted directly. Your role, support team, route all inquiries to person. Sales team, hold all demos until 3 p.m. We'll have talking points ready. Product team, meet with me at 1 p.m. for postmortem planning. Everyone else, continue normal operations. This is serious, but contained. Questions to me. TO sales prospects. Personal email from sales rep. I want to let you know about something that happened this morning. Between 10:15 to 11:15 a.m., we had a data processing bug that affected about 200 of our 20,000 active users. We identified and fixed the issue within an hour. I'm telling you this because transparency matters, especially as you're evaluating us. Here's what we learned. Specific lesson. Here's what we're changing. Specific improvement. If you want to discuss how we handle issues like this, I'm happy to schedule time with our VP of Engineering. If this changes your timeline, I understand. Sales rep name. For different stakeholder groups. 4 targeted signals. Each one builds trust by respecting the specific information needs and relationship context. Elite versus average number 1. Timing versus completeness. Average leaders wait until they have complete information before communicating. They believe incomplete information damages credibility. So they gather, analyze, confirm, while silence creates vacuum that fills with speculation. Elite leaders communicate immediately with bounded transparency. They separate what's known from unknown. They understand that prompt communication with partial information builds more trust than delayed communication with complete information. Result after 24 hours. Average finally issues comprehensive statement. But team has already operated on rumors. Customers have already made assumptions. Media has already filled the narrative gap. Elite has issued 3 to 4 updates, each adding detail. Team stayed aligned. Customers appreciated transparency, controlled the narrative from the start. Elite versus average number 2. Message crafting. Average leaders write messages that make themselves feel better. We take this seriously. We're doing everything we can. These phrases reassure the speaker, not the audience. Elite leaders write messages that address audience anxiety. Specific actions. Concrete timelines. Clear accountability. These elements reassure the audience, whether or not they make the speaker comfortable. Result. Average. Message is polished, safe, and forgettable. Audience thinks they said nothing meaningful. Elite. Message is specific, vulnerable, and credible. Audience thinks they're in control and being straight with me. Signal summary. The 4-sentence structure. What we know/don't know/doing/ when you'll hear next. Builds trust through bounded transparency. Adapt detail level to trust context. High trust equals concise. Low trust equals detailed. Hostile equals maximum transparency. Target signals to specific stakeholder groups based on their information needs and relationship. Fortune 500 analysis showed 83% of crisis reputation damage came from communication failures, not operational failures. What you say in the first 90 seconds sets the trust trajectory for everything that follows. You've oriented. You've stabilized. You've signaled. Your system is contained. Your message is clear. Trust is maintained. But now comes the moment that separates competent leaders from exceptional ones. You have to decide what to do. Not in 3 days after complete analysis. Not after consulting everyone. Right now, in the next 3 to 5 minutes. With 40% of the information you wish you had. Chapter 5 reveals the decision science that elite leaders use. The 3-option decision trident. This framework, developed by the U.S. Military War College and adapted by Stanford's Graduate School of Business, allows you to make fast, sound decisions under uncertainty. Because here's what kills leaders in crisis: not bad decisions. Delayed decisions. Colonel Hawk Ellison made 11 decisions in his first 10 minutes during the base attack. 3 of those decisions were suboptimal, but all 11 were fast. His team acted. The crisis stabilized. The leader who waited for perfect information made 2 decisions in 10 minutes. Both were well-reasoned, but the delay created chaos that took hours to resolve. The decision trident gives you a choice framework: conservative option, standard option, aggressive option. You pick based on pre-committed principles, not emotional reaction. Next chapter: how to decide fast without deciding loose. The constraint-based choice system. The principles that guide selection. The script that communicates decision with confidence. You've signaled what you're doing. Now let's master how to decide what to do. Let's master crisis decision-making. Chapter 5. Decide fast, not loose. Speed kills decisions. Slowness kills organizations. Here's the difference. U.S. Military War College studied 1,200 tactical decisions made under fire over 20 years. They found a paradox. Fast decisions had a 68% success rate. Slow, deliberate decisions had only 51% success rate. But reckless decisions, made fast without framework, had 23% success rate. The revelation: speed isn't the problem. Framework is everything. Leaders who decided fast using constraint-based frameworks outperformed leaders who deliberated slowly without frameworks. You don't need more time. You need better decision architecture. Alex Rivera learned this lesson the hardest way possible. During the product defect crisis, Alex faced a critical decision at minute 11. Should we issue a full product recall, replace defective units on request, or offer credit toward upgraded models? Each option had major implications: financial cost, customer trust, operational complexity, legal exposure. Alex did what seemed responsible, called a meeting, gathered the executive team, spent 47 minutes discussing pros and cons of each approach, built decision matrices, analyzed scenarios. At minute 58, Alex made the decision: replace on request. But here's what happened during those 47 minutes. Engineering had no direction on whether to fix or replace, so they did nothing. Customer service had no script, so they made contradictory promises. Warehouse had no instructions, so they continued shipping defective units. Social media complaints multiplied. 2 competitors posted "Switch to us" campaigns targeting Alex's customers. The decision itself was sound, but the delay cost the company $340,000 in compounding problems and missed opportunities. Contrast this with Maya Thompson's decision-making during the mass casualty event. At minute 9, Maya faced a decision. Patient A needed immediate surgery but had a 40% survival probability. Patient B was stable but would deteriorate within 20 minutes without intervention. She had 1 trauma surgeon available. Maya decided in 30 seconds. Surgeon to patient B, stabilize, then assess patient A, with second surgical team arriving in 15 minutes. Both patients survived, not because Maya had more information, because Maya had a decision framework that worked with time pressure, not against it. Stanford Graduate School of Business ran a decade-long study on executive decision-making during organizational crises. They tracked 890 major decisions across Fortune 500 companies. The findings challenged everything business schools taught about deliberate decision-making. Decisions made in under 5 minutes, 72% success rate. Decisions made in 15 to 30 minutes, 61% success rate. Decisions made in 60+ minutes, 48% success rate. But here's the critical nuance. The fast decisions that succeeded weren't impulsive. They used frameworks. The slow decisions that failed spent time gathering information but had no structured decision process. The conclusion: time doesn't improve decisions. Structure does. Before I give you the decision framework, you need to understand why your brain makes terrible crisis decisions without structure. It's called decision paralysis under constraint, and it's neurological. When you face high-stakes decisions with time pressure, your brain releases cortisol and norepinephrine. These stress hormones narrow your cognitive flexibility, your ability to consider multiple options and switch between perspectives. You literally see fewer options than you normally would, and the options you do see become emotionally weighted rather than logically evaluated. MIT's Brain and Cognitive Sciences Department measured this in real time using fMRI scans. Leaders facing crisis decision scenarios showed a 62% reduction in prefrontal cortex activity, the region responsible for weighing options and anticipating consequences. But here's what's fascinating. When leaders used a predetermined decision framework, their prefrontal cortex activity remained at 81% of normal levels. The framework offloaded the cognitive work of how to decide, so their brain could focus on what to decide. Colonel Hawk Ellison understands this instinctively from military training. During the base attack, Hawk made a rapid-fire series of decisions. Deploy quick reaction force? Yes. Which direction? East perimeter. How many? 2 squads. Remaining force? Defensive positions. Casualty evacuation route. South gate. Communication protocol? Radio channel 3. Each decision took 10 to 20 seconds. Total, 11 decisions in 8 minutes. Here's what made this possible. Hawk wasn't inventing a decision process under stress. He was executing a pre-existing framework. The military calls it the OODA loop: observe, orient, decide, act. Business leaders need the equivalent. That equivalent is the decision trident, the 3-option decision trident. This framework, developed by the U.S. Military War College and adapted for business crisis contexts by Stanford GSB, solves the core problem of crisis decision-making. You need speed, but you can't sacrifice quality. The trident works by pre-structuring your options into 3 deliberate choices, each with different risk-reward profiles. Option 1. Conservative, minimize harm. Primary goal: prevent the situation from getting worse. Risk tolerance: low. Time horizon: immediate containment. Success metric: nothing compounds. This is your safety option. If you can't see clearly enough to take aggressive action, this option prevents catastrophe. Example: data breach crisis. Conservative option: immediately notify all affected customers. Offer free credit monitoring for 2 years. Halt all data processing until security audit complete. Cost: high immediate expense, operational disruption. Benefit: maximum customer trust protection, minimal legal exposure. Option 2. Standard, balance risk and opportunity. Primary goal: address the problem with proportional response. Risk tolerance: moderate. Time horizon: resolution within operational constraints. Success metric: problem solved, minimal disruption. This is your baseline option. It addresses the crisis without extreme measures in either direction. Example: data breach crisis. Standard option: notify affected customers within 24 hours. Offer 1-year credit monitoring. Implement immediate security patches. Complete audit within 30 days. Cost: moderate expense, brief operational disruption. Benefit: addresses problem, maintains operations, meets regulatory requirements. Option 3. Aggressive, maximize opportunity. Primary goal: turn crisis into competitive advantage. Risk tolerance: high. Time horizon: strategic positioning beyond immediate crisis. Success metric: emerge stronger than before crisis. This is your bold option. It accepts short-term cost or risk to achieve long-term strategic benefit. Example: data breach crisis. Aggressive option: immediate customer notification, 2 years credit monitoring plus cash compensation for inconvenience. Hire external security firm for public audit. Publish full transparency report. Challenge industry to adopt our new security standards. Cost: highest immediate expense, intense scrutiny. Benefit: potential industry leadership position, customer trust differentiation, competitive moat. How to choose between the three options. This is where most frameworks fail. They give you options, but no selection method. You're still stuck deciding how to decide. The Trident solves this with pre-committed principles. You establish these before crisis, not during crisis. The principle cascade. Ask 3 questions in sequence. The first, yes, determines your option. Question 1. Does this crisis threaten our core values or create irreversible harm? If yes, conservative option. If no, continue to question 2. Core values. Things you won't compromise. Safety. Reputation. Legal compliance. Customer trust. Irreversible harm. Outcomes you can't repair. Deaths. Massive legal liability. Permanent reputation destruction. Maya Thompson answered this instantly during the mass casualty event. Lives are at stake. Core value. Patient safety. Decision. Conservative approach to every medical decision. When in doubt, prioritize survival over optimization. Question 2. Do we have strategic advantage or capability others lack in this situation? If yes, aggressive option. If no, continue to question 3. Strategic advantage. Resources, expertise, relationships, technology that make bold action feasible for you, but not for competitors. Dana Kim faced this during the cyber attack. The city had already invested in cybersecurity infrastructure beyond most municipalities. They had forensic capability in-house. This created strategic advantage. Decision, aggressive transparency, public audit, demonstrate leadership. Question 3. If neither extreme applies, default to standard. This is your operational baseline. Address the crisis proportionally without heroics or excessive caution. Here's the exact decision-making script that takes you from framework to action in under 3 minutes. The Rapid Decision Protocol. Step 1. 30 seconds. State the decision clearly. The decision: should we action A, action B, or action C? Force yourself to frame it as a choice between specific options, not an open-ended problem. Step 2. 60 seconds. Map to Trident options. Option 1. Conservative, specific action. Minimizes harm, protects core value. Option 2. Standard, specific action. Addresses problem proportionally. Option 3. Aggressive, specific action. Maximizes strategic opportunity. Step 3. 30 seconds. Apply principle cascade. Question 1. Does this threaten core values? Yes/no. Question 2. Do we have strategic advantage? Yes/no. Answer: conservative, standard, aggressive. Step 4. 30 seconds. Decide and commit. Decision: we're choosing option. Reason: 1 sentence. Owner: name. Timeline: specific. Let's execute. Total time: 2.5 minutes from decision trigger to execution. Let me show you this in action with Alex Rivera's second attempt at the product defect crisis. Decision point: how to handle 2,400 defective units already shipped to customers. Alex's decision protocol, minute 12 of crisis. The decision: do we wait for customers to report failures and then replace, proactively contact all customers and offer replacement, or recall all units immediately regardless of customer preference? Option 1. Conservative, full recall. Maximize customer trust protection. Cost: $180,000. Operational disruption. Option 2. Standard, proactive outreach with replacement offer. Addresses problem, customer chooses. Cost: $90,000 estimated. Option 3. Aggressive, proactive replacement plus upgrade incentive. Turn defect into relationship builder. Cost: $140,000. Question 1. Core values threatened? Product quality is core value, but not irreversible harm level, no safety risk. No. Question 2. Strategic advantage? Yes. We have superior replacement logistics and upcoming product upgrade. Yes. Answer: aggressive. Decision: aggressive option. We're proactively contacting all 2,400 customers, offering immediate replacement, plus 20% credit toward upgraded model. Reason: we have the capability, and this turns a defect into a loyalty opportunity. Owner, Customer Success VP. Timeline. Outreach begins in 2 hours. Execute. Elapsed time, 2 minutes 40 seconds. The team had clear direction. No one waited. No confusion. Operations began immediately. Now let's test your decision framework with a multi-layered scenario. Scenario. You're Chief Operating Officer at a manufacturing company. Thursday, 10:15 a.m. Quality Control has discovered a defect in products manufactured over the past 3 weeks. 14,000 units are in distribution. 3,000 have already been sold to customers. The defect doesn't create safety issues, but the product doesn't perform to specifications. You've oriented and stabilized. Now you must decide the response. Wrong approach, no framework. You call a meeting. Finance presents cost scenarios. Legal discusses liability. Marketing worries about brand damage. Operations explains logistics challenges. Everyone has opinions. You spend 90 minutes debating. Eventually, you choose a middle ground compromise that nobody loves. By the time you decide, a customer has posted a complaint video that's going viral. Your competitors have started trade-in campaigns. Your sales team is fielding questions with no guidance. Right approach, Trident framework. At minute 14, you run the protocol. The decision. Do we replace only units customers report as defective, proactively notify, and replace all sold units? Or recall all 14,000 units, including inventory? Map to Trident. Option 1. Conservative full recall of all 14,000 units. Stop all sales immediately. Replace all sold units proactively. Cost. $420,000 in replacement plus shipping plus lost sales benefit. Zero reputation risk. Maximum quality commitment demonstration timeline. 30 days for complete recall. Option 2. Standard proactively notify 3,000 customers who purchased. Offer immediate replacement. Fix inventory before continued sales. Cost. $90,000 in replacement plus shipping benefit. Addresses sold products. Maintains operations timeline. 15 days for customer replacements. Resumes sales in 7 days. Option 3. Aggressive proactive replacement plus upgrade path. Turn defect into customer relationship builder. Public transparency about quality commitment. Cost. $140,000 in replacement plus upgrade incentives benefit. Potential competitive differentiation on quality commitment timeline. 7 days for notification, ongoing upgrade program. Apply principal cascade. Question 1. Core values threatened? Yes, quality is a core brand value, but not safety level. Borderline. Let me check question 2 first. Question 2. Strategic advantage? Yes, we have direct customer relationships, B2B model, strong logistics, and new product generation launching in 60 days. We can execute aggressive option effectively. Decision, aggressive option. We have the capability, and this aligns with our quality positioning. We're choosing option 3, aggressive. Reason, quality is our brand promise, and we have the logistics and upcoming product launch to make this a relationship builder, not just damage control. Owner, VP Operations for Logistics, VP Marketing for Communication. Timeline. Customer notification begins today at 2 p.m. Replacement units ship within 48 hours. Upgrade incentive program launches tomorrow. Execute. Elapsed time, 3 minutes 10 seconds. You immediately brief the team with clear roles. Operations. Handle logistics and replacement fulfillment marketing. Craft transparency communication and upgrade program sales. Script for customer conversations emphasizing quality commitment finance. Budget reallocation approved for $140,000. Everyone moves. No ambiguity. No delays. 72 hours later, your transparent communication and aggressive response has generated positive press. 3 competitors have been forced to respond to questions about their own quality processes. 2 major prospects cite your response as a reason for choosing you. One customer writes, "This defect actually made me trust you more because I saw how you handled it." The decision framework turned a crisis into a competitive advantage. Elite versus average number 1. Decision speed versus decision quality. Average leaders believe time improves decisions. They gather more information, consult more people, build more analysis. They think deliberation equals quality. Elite leaders believe framework improves decisions. They structure choices before time pressure, then execute quickly using pre-committed principles. They know constraint-based frameworks produce better decisions than unlimited time without framework. 3 weeks later. Average. Decision is well-researched but late. Crisis has compounded during deliberation. Team learned that decisions take forever. Elite. Decision is fast and sound. Crisis contained before compounding. Team learned they can move with speed and confidence. Elite versus average. Number 2. Option generation. Average leaders face decisions as open-ended problems. What should we do? This creates cognitive overload and analysis paralysis. Elite leaders pre-structure decisions into 3 deliberate options: conservative, standard, aggressive, with different risk profiles. This transforms "what should we do" into which pre-structured option fits our principles. Result: average, 47 minutes of debate, no clear winner, compromise solution nobody trusts. Elite, 3 minutes of evaluation, clear selection based on principles, confident execution. Decision-making summary. The 3-option decision trident structures choices: conservative, minimize harm; standard, proportional response; aggressive, maximize opportunity. The principle cascade provides selection method: core values threatened, use conservative; strategic advantage, use aggressive; neither, use standard. The rapid decision protocol takes you from problem to execution in under 3 minutes. U.S. Military War College data. Decisions made in under 5 minutes using frameworks had 72% success rates. Decisions made in 60+ minutes without frameworks had 48% success rates. Framework beats time. You've decided. Fast. Sound. Based on principles, not panic. But here's what will sabotage your decision execution: your physiology. Chapter 6 reveals the research that shocked Stanford's neuroscience lab. Your breathing pattern changes within 15 seconds of decision-making stress. This single physiological shift reduces your decision quality by 40% and your communication clarity by 35%. Elite leaders don't just decide well. They control their physiological state during decision-making. Colonel Hawk Ellison made 11 decisions in 8 minutes during the base attack. But between each decision, he took 3 tactical breaths. This 15-second reset maintained his cognitive clarity when everyone around him was narrowing into panic. Maya Thompson faced life-or-death decisions with surgical teams watching. Her voice never wavered. Her hands never shook. Not because she wasn't stressed, because she trained physiological control as rigorously as she trained medical skills. The next chapter is about leadership physiology, tactical breathing protocols, posture, and voice control. The 90-second reset that restores cognitive function under extreme pressure. You've mastered what to decide. Now let's master how to stay calm while deciding. Calm isn't personality. Calm is protocol. Chapter 6. Leaders' Physiology. Calm as a performance asset. Your decisions don't fail because you're unprepared. They fail because your physiology collapses before your mind does. Stanford neuroscientists discovered a leadership truth so disruptive that it permanently changed crisis training programs. When a leader's breathing rate climbs above 20 breaths per minute, decision quality drops 40%. Heart rate variability crashes. Cortisol surges. Cognitive flexibility narrows to a tunnel. The brain becomes a blunt instrument. But leaders who maintain 6 to 10 breaths per minute show the opposite pattern: clearer thinking, slower emotional escalation, and significantly better judgment. The conclusion is unavoidable. Calm isn't a personality trait. Calm is a physiological state. And physiological states are trainable. When physiology betrays competence. Alex Rivera was doing everything right during the company's first data breach crisis. Perfect orientation, strong stabilization, clear communication, textbook execution of the decision trident. But when Alex stood in front of 240 employees for the emergency all-hands briefing, physiology, not strategy, decided the outcome. Racing pulse, shallow breathing, tight jaw, voice a half step higher, hands gripping the podium. The message was solid, but the team didn't hear the message. They saw the stress leakage. One employee described it perfectly. The words were fine, but Alex looked terrified. If the CEO is that stressed, how bad is this really? Trust eroded in seconds, not because of the content, but because the delivery betrayed the internal state. Contrast, controlled physiology under fire. Colonel Hawk Ellison faced chaos, explosions, casualties, uncertainty. His heart rate was elevated, just like Alex's, but his breathing remained controlled. His voice steady, his posture open and grounded. His second-in-command recalled, "I was terrified, but when I looked at the colonel, he was calm." His calm transferred to us. Same stress, same stakes, different physiology, different outcome. Harvard Medical School later confirmed this phenomenon. Leaders who display calm physiological markers reduce their team's collective cortisol by 35%. Leaders who display stress markers spike their team's cortisol by 52%. Stress is contagious. Calm is also contagious. And you don't need to feel calm. You only need to behave calm long enough for your brain to follow your body. Why just stay calm never works. Most leadership advice collapses under real pressure. 1. Take a deep breath, increases anxiety. Under stress, your sympathetic system is already firing. Forcing one exaggerated breath amplifies the internal pressure to be calm, which actually elevates stress. 2. Stay composed describes the outcome, not the process. Telling someone to stay composed is like telling a surgeon to avoid mistakes. Useless without technique. 3. Project confidence backfires. When physiology doesn't match behavior, micro-expressions reveal the truth. Teams detect the inconsistency instantly. Mindset doesn't regulate physiology. Physiology regulates mindset. Maya Thompson learned this as an ER nurse. She saw brilliant physicians fall apart because their hands trembled and their voices wavered despite trying to stay calm. But she also witnessed a trauma surgeon who trained tactical physiology. Though his heart rate was elevated during a high-risk procedure, his voice remained even and his hands steady. "I'm not calm," he told her afterward, "but I control my breath, posture, and voice. My brain believes the body, so the fear quiets." This is physiology-first leadership. The 3 physiological levers. These levers form a closed-loop system with your nervous system. Control the levers, and you control the loop. 1. Breath, tactical box breathing, 4-4-4-4. Used by Navy SEALs, ER commanders, elite military operators. Inhale for seconds. Hold for seconds. Exhale for seconds. Hold for seconds. 3 cycles equals 48 seconds. Why it works? The brief hold increases CO2 just enough to signal the brain. Not in immediate danger, cortisol drops. Used before briefings, negotiations, decision points, or after absorbing shocking information. 2. Posture, the crisis leadership stance. Shoulders back and down. Chest open. Chin level. Hands visible and still. Weight evenly distributed. Effects. Signals competence. Reduces cortisol. Improves breathing efficiency. 3. Voice, the command register. Your voice is a nervous system control lever. Formula. Pitch, lower than conversational. Volume, steady. Pace, slightly slower. Pauses, intentional, not filler. A steady voice lowers both your anxiety and your team's. The 90-second PRE crisis reset. 0 to 48 seconds, box breathing. 48 to 65 seconds, postural reset. 65 to 90 seconds, vocal warm-up. Say softly, "I am prepared. I know what matters. I will lead clearly." Not affirmation, physiological calibration. Dana Kim used this before addressing the public during the cyber attack. She felt terrified. Her team saw calm authority. The 15-second micro-reset. When you don't have 90 seconds. 8 seconds, 2 mini breathing cycles. 4 seconds, posture alignment. 3 seconds, vocal reset, sip of water or throat clear. Invisible, powerful. Scenario, VP of Sales, high-stakes client call. Your largest client, 18% of revenue, may terminate. You have 20 minutes before the call. Wrong approach. Prepare content while physiology spirals. Result: defensive tone, rapid speech, emotional reactivity. Client leaves unconvinced. Right approach: first 3 minutes, physiological reset. Next 10 minutes, prepare content with a regulated mind. On the call, deep breathing, open posture, low vocal register. You listen better. They feel stability. The relationship survives because your body state made your brain functional. Elite versus average leaders. Average: manage stress mentally. Elite: manage stress physiologically. Average: prepare content only. Elite: prepare physiology first, then content. Content fails if the body collapses. Content succeeds when physiology supports cognition. Summary: breath, posture, voice. 3 levers that determine decision quality, message clarity, and team trust. Stanford's research is clear. Leaders who regulate physiology make 40% better decisions and reduce team stress by 35%. Calm isn't who you are. Calm is what you do. You've mastered your internal state. Now the environment must be stabilized. Because the next threat doesn't attack your systems. It attacks your narrative. Next chapter: misinformation warfare and how to contain the crisis within the crisis. Chapter 7: information wars, containing misinformation. What successful leaders do in the first 10 minutes of a crisis. Most people think leadership collapses in long, slow failures. Research says otherwise. Harvard Business School followed 847 leaders over 15 years as they faced real organizational crises, financial hits, PR explosions, system outages, and internal breakdowns. Their conclusion was shocking. 73% of leaders made their most damaging decision within the first 10 minutes. Not the first week, not the first day, the first 600 seconds. That brief window determines whether a crisis spirals or becomes solvable. But here's what separates the 27% who got it right. They weren't the smartest, the most experienced, or the most senior. They simply controlled the first 10 minutes better than everyone else. And they did it using a repeatable playbook, one you can learn. The crisis reflex problem. When a crisis hits, most people default to one of 2 destructive instincts. React immediately. They fire off messages, make promises, demand answers, assign blame, and trigger a chain of rushed decisions that compound the damage. Freeze. They delay, overthink, wait for more information, or hope the situation magically stabilizes. Both responses feel natural. Both destroy clarity. High-performing leaders don't do either. They use the crisis first 10 protocol, a mental model for handling the moment before action. The crisis first 10 protocol. Harvard researchers noticed that the top-performing 27% shared a nearly identical sequence in the first few minutes. 1. They stop the internal panic spiral, minute 0 to 1. Elite leaders don't start by thinking about the crisis. They start by controlling their biochemistry. A simple 10-second pattern. Inhale 4, hold 2, exhale 6, drops cortisol and steadies decision-making more effectively than any leadership mindset trick. Most leaders skip this. The 27% don't. 2. They switch from outcome mode to information mode, minute 1 to 3. Average leaders worry about: what does this mean for me? What will my boss say? How bad is this? Who's at fault? Successful leaders ask only one question: what is actually happening, without assumptions. They strip opinion, emotion, and noise until only observable facts remain. A stable mind cannot be built on unstable information. 3. They identify the single point of failure, minute 3 to 5. Crisis beginners chase symptoms. Crisis professionals look for the origin node, the one cause creating the domino effect. It's almost never the first thing reported. It's almost never what people think. But resolving it collapses the chaos instantly. 4. They decide on a 10-minute action, not a 10-hour plan, minute 5 to 7. The first move must be small, reversible, information revealing. They choose the action that creates the fastest clarity, not the biggest impact. In crisis psychology, this is called a stability anchor. a small step that stops the emotional freefall and grounds the team in movement. 5. They communicate with precision, minutes 7 to 10. High performers use what researchers call the ECC framework. Exact situation, here is what we know. Current action, here is what we are doing now. Containment boundary, here is what this affects and what it does not affect. This boundary is what prevents panic from spreading. A real example, the server outage. Imagine it's 7:30 a.m. A manager receives an urgent message. The server went down. Customers can't access their accounts. A typical leader reacts instantly. Restart everything. Notify everyone. We're in trouble. This usually makes the impact worse. Here's how a top 27% leader approaches it. Minute 0 to 1. Stop the panic spiral. Breathing pattern. No messages sent yet. Minute 1 to 3. Gather only facts. What exactly is down? When did it start? Who first reported it? What changed in the last 24 hours? No theories. Only data. Minute 3 to 5. Locate the failure point. Is it the server itself? A load balancer? A software patch? A single corrupted process? One tiny node usually collapses the system. Minute 5 to 7. Choose a reversible microaction. Not a full restart. Not a full rollback. Just the smallest diagnostic action that produces new information. Minute 7 to 10. Communicate the containment boundary. Instead of chaos messaging like, systems are failing, we're checking everything. A top leader says, we have a service interruption affecting login access only. The database, payment systems, and internal tools are unaffected. We are running diagnostics on a single gateway and will update in 10 minutes. 10 minutes of control prevent 10 hours of chaos. Why this works? Crisis mistakes almost always come from the same root cause. Leaders feel forced to act before they understand. The first 10 protocol breaks the loop by lowering cortisol, restoring cognitive accuracy, limiting emotional contagion, preventing large, irreversible moves, creating immediate psychological safety, allowing small actions to expose the truth. This is why the best leaders don't fix fast. They stabilize early so they fix accurately. The rule to remember. In every crisis, technical, financial, personal, organizational, your first job is not to solve the crisis. Your first job is to protect the clarity of your mind. Because clarity leads to better decisions. Better decisions lead to faster stabilization. And faster stabilization turns a crisis into a solvable situation. Master the first 10 minutes, and the next 10 hours take care of themselves. Chapter 8. Command and Intent. How elite leaders move 100 people without controlling them. The U.S. Army War College spent 30 years studying 2,400 combat operations. Their discovery overturned traditional leadership doctrine. Units where commanders made all decisions had a 43% success rate. Units where commanders set clear intent and let teams execute had an 87% success rate. The paradox: control slows everything. Clarity accelerates everything. Elite leaders don't manage actions. They align intent, and intent scales faster than control ever can. To see the difference, look at Alex Rivera during her first major product defect crisis. Alex had stabilized the situation and communicated the basics. But then she tried to approve every move. Engineering: we can ship replacements via express courier. Alex: hold on, I need to approve the shipping method. Customer service: we want to call affected customers proactively. Alex: send me the script first. Marketing: we'll post an update to social. Alex: wait, I need to check the wording. Every decision bottlenecked through one person. Approvals took 15 to 45 minutes each. While Alex reviewed one script, engineering paused. While she edited one message, customer service froze. By the end of day 1, the team had produced 40% of their potential output, not because they lacked skill, but because they lacked authority. Now contrast this with Colonel Hawk Ellison during a base attack. Hawk gave only 3 priorities. 1. Account for all personnel. 2. Establish a defensive perimeter. 3. Prepare casualty evacuation. Make any tactical decision that supports these priorities. I'll coordinate the strategic response. No micromanagement. No approval chains. His platoon leaders made dozens of decisions on their own. Team placement, weapons activation, casualty routing, because every action tracked back to the same intent. The result? A synchronized response at the speed of need, not the speed of permission. Harvard Business School later studied 520 organizational crises and quantified the difference. Centralized control, 4.2 decisions/hour, 67% alignment, 41% positive outcomes. Commander's intent approach, 17.8 decisions/hour, 84% alignment, 79% positive outcomes. Distributed authority without intent, fast decisions, only 31% alignment, and disastrous outcomes. The conclusion: the enemy of crisis performance isn't speed. It's uncoordinated speed. And the antidote isn't control, it's clarity of intent. So why do smart leaders still default to control during crisis? Because of the responsibility paradox. When you feel responsible for outcomes, you feel obligated to approve actions. But responsibility cannot scale. Control becomes the bottleneck. While you're deciding issue number 7, issues #8, 15 are sitting idle. Maya Thompson understood this during a mass casualty emergency. As incident commander, she was technically responsible for every patient outcome. But with 8 trauma patients and 4 surgical teams, hundreds of decisions needed to happen at once. If Maya tried to approve everything, people would die while she deliberated. So she issued clear intent. Priority: maximize survivable outcomes. Constraint: no heroic measures on patients below a 15% survival probability until higher probability patients are stabilized. Authority: trauma leads make all tactical decisions inside this framework. 30 seconds. Total clarity: every doctor knew exactly how to think. Save the most savable first. Don't burn limited resources on near-impossible cases. Act independently within the boundaries. All 8 trauma patients survived, not because Maya controlled decisions, but because her intent aligned them. The commander's intent framework, 3 sentences that align an entire organization. Adapted from military doctrine, used across emergency medicine, firefighting, and high-stakes business operations. Takes 30 to 90 seconds to communicate. Unlocks massive decision-making speed. Sentence 1, the objective. A single, sharp sentence defining what success looks like. Wrong. Handle the crisis effectively while minimizing damage and protecting trust. Too vague. Too broad. No priority. Right. Restore checkout functionality and customer confidence by end of day. Formula: action verb plus specific outcome plus time frame. Sentence 2, the constraints. What the team must not do. Constraints prevent well-intentioned but misaligned decisions. Formula: do not action unless condition. Examples: do not release information unless verified through SSOT. Do not commit to delivery dates we cannot meet. Constraints create freedom by defining boundaries. Sentence 3, the end state. What the world looks like after we succeed, 24 to 48 hours later. Formula: when we're done, stakeholder A will, stakeholder B will, and we will have. End state provides purpose, not just direction. How to deploy intent in the first 10 minutes. Step 1, 60 seconds, gather key leads. Step 2, 90 seconds, deliver intent. Objective, constraints, end state. Step 3, 30 seconds, have each lead repeat their understanding. Step 4, 30 seconds, empower execution. You may make any tactical decision that serves the objective and respects the constraints. Total time, 3.5 minutes. Alignment, all day. Alex Rivera used this the second time around. Objective: replace defective units and restore confidence by Friday. Constraints: no unrealistic promises, no supplier blame, no expenses over $10,000. End state: customers feel supported, the team feels empowered, the company sets a standard of crisis response. 3 minutes of clarity produced 8 hours of high-speed execution. Elite versus average leadership. The two big differences: 1. Authority distribution. Average leaders centralize authority, slow, frustrating, exhausting. Elite leaders distribute authority with intent, fast, aligned, scalable. 2. Communication style. Average, do this. Elite, achieve this. Don't violate this. Here's why. Intent beats instruction every time. Summary. Commander's intent collapses bottlenecks, accelerates execution, and aligns organizations under pressure. In crisis, control creates friction. Clarity creates speed. Elite leaders don't control actions, they control direction. And now comes the moment that reveals your true leadership. Crisis forces ethical decisions you don't have time to study. When values collide. When stakes are human, financial, and irreversible. Next, the ethics framework for split-second decisions. How elite leaders make moral calls when there's no time, no consensus, and no obvious answer. Chapter 9. Ethics when the stakes are real. 2 patients. 1 surgeon. 30 seconds. Maya Thompson, the hospital's incident commander, faced the moment every crisis leader fears. A 7-year-old with head trauma and a 38-year-old pregnant woman, 28 weeks, arrived at the same time. 1 surgical team. No ethics board. No time. Just values, training, and the knowledge that her choice might decide who lives. Most leadership books avoid this part. Crisis ethics aren't about finding the perfect answer. They're about choosing the least harm option among imperfect choices fast. Maya had already set her commander's intent, maximize survivable outcomes. But both patients had similar odds. Both had powerful moral claims. 1 child, 1 mother, an unborn child. 30 seconds. She leaned on the framework she had drilled for years. The values hierarchy plus the harm minimization protocol. Her decision. The surgeon goes to the pregnant woman first. Reason. 2 lives immediately at stake, and a pediatric specialist was 8 minutes out, making the delay for the child less likely to change the outcome. Both survived, but that's not the lesson. The lesson is this. Maya made the best ethical call possible with the information and time she had. That's crisis ethics. Not perfect morality, but practiced morality under impossible constraints. Wharton research across 680 crises shows leaders with pre-built values hierarchies make ethical decisions 4.2x faster with 68% higher trust. Because you can't build your moral foundation while the building is burning. Why smart leaders fail ethically. Blame your brain. Under high stress, the amygdala pushes you toward immediate pain avoidance. This creates situational ethics drift, momentary decisions that soothe pressure but violate principles. Example, after a data breach, Alex Rivera considered hiding the true number of affected customers. Not malicious, just drift. Alex caught it. Many don't. Contrast with Dana Kim. A cyber attack was caused by employee error. Media demanded specifics. Revealing it would answer questions, but publicly shame the employee. Dana held to her preset value, individual dignity over organizational convenience. She refused to name the employee. Pressure rose. She didn't bend. The values hierarchy, built before the crisis hits. 1. Safety. Life and physical safety override everything. 2. Legality. Meet obligations unless safety demands otherwise. 3. Core values. The 3 to 5 principles you never compromise. 4. Stakeholder interests. Balanced through the harm lens. 5. Organizational convenience. Lowest priority. Values aren't values if they collapse under pressure. Harm minimization. When every option causes harm. Map all stakeholders. Categorize harm. Irreversible, reversible, discomfort. Weighted. Irreversible equals 10 times reversible. Reversible equals 10 times discomfort. Consider harm concentration. This makes impossible choices structured and defensible. The 30-second red lines. Before deciding, ask, does this risk serious physical harm? Does it violate law? Does it contradict our core values? Am I choosing this to avoid discomfort? Could I defend it publicly? 1. Yes equals stop and reassess. The real test. You're the CEO. A respected executive is credibly accused of harassment. A $2.4 million deal, only he can close, is weeks away. The weak path. Keep him until the deal closes. That's values drift. The right path. Run the red lines. Apply the hierarchy. Suspend immediately. Communicate honestly. Lose the deal if necessary. If your values break under pressure, they were never values, just slogans. Elite versus average. Average leaders bend principles when the stakes rise. Elite leaders rely on pre-built frameworks and hold the line, even when it costs something. That's why teams trust them. Ethics under crisis isn't about perfection. It's about clarity you've trained for long before the moment arrives. The next chapter gives you that training. So when the pressure hits, you don't rise to your intentions. You fall to your preparation. Chapter 10. Training the first 10 minutes. You have 30 days. And this is the protocol that will turn crisis leadership from something you know into something you can execute under pressure. Stanford's Crisis Performance Lab proved the core truth. Knowledge doesn't survive stress. Training does. In their study, leaders who only learned the Orient-Stabilize-Signal protocol performed it correctly 31% of the time under pressure. Those who practiced it for 30 days, 84%. Same information, different brains. One group froze. One group executed. That's the gap we close now. Alex Rivera learned this the hard way. After the first crisis failure, Alex consumed everything: books, lectures, frameworks. But when the second crisis hit, stress hijacked the brain. Alex over-collected information, skipped stabilization, tried controlling every lane. Knowledge helped correct the mistakes, but it cost minutes that matter. Maya Thompson is the contrast. In real emergencies, she doesn't think about the protocol. She moves through it automatically. Why? Because her hospital ran 10-minute drills every month for 3 years. 36 repetitions. 36 first, 10-minute rehearsals. When the real crisis came, she didn't rise to the moment. She fell to her training. Military research confirms it. Between 20 to 30 repetitions of a complex sequence are required before it becomes automatic under stress. Below that threshold, leaders fall back into instinct. Above it, they execute with clarity and speed. That's why traditional annual crisis workshops fail. They're too infrequent, too theoretical, too broad. No repetition, no feedback, no muscle memory. So here's the fix: micro drills. Short, specific, repeated. Week 1. Orient, 15 minutes. 3 rapid scenarios. 2 minutes each. Answer the 3 Orient questions with 0 speculation. Review. Refine. Goal. Automatic clarity in 2 minutes. Week 2. Stabilize, 15 minutes. Run people, perimeter, process in 4 minutes. Assign roles. Draw boundaries. Define decision lanes. Goal. Structure under pressure. Week 3. Signal, 15 minutes. Craft the 4-sentence update in 90 seconds. No, don't know, doing, next update. Record it. Refine it. Goal. Crisp, confident communication. Week 4. Full sequence, 15 minutes. 10 minutes. Start to finish. Then a short after-action review. What was supposed to happen? What happened? Why? What changes next time? This is where improvement locks in. Create your crisis card. A simple 3x5 you carry everywhere. Front, the protocol. Back, your red lines and your physiological reset steps. When your brain floods, the card clears the fog. Save your communication templates now. Initial statement, stakeholder update. All clear, so you never write from scratch in chaos. And schedule your training. Literally put it in your calendar. Same day, same time, for weeks. Because crisis doesn't test your intentions. It tests your preparation. The leaders remembered for great crisis response. Alex, Maya, Dana, Colonel Ellison weren't lucky. They were trained. Your crisis is coming. Maybe soon. You can't control that. But you can control who you are in the first 600 seconds. Create the card. Do the drills. Define your values. And when the moment hits, you won't guess. You'll orient. You'll stabilize. You'll signal. And you'll execute like someone who practiced long before it mattered.